The lake was mine. Not just in my heart, where the glassy water held every sunset I'd ever chased, but on paper deeded, signed, undeniable. My grandfather built the cabin with his own hands, splitting logs under the weight of a Missouri summer, sweat mixing with sawdust. That lakefront was his legacy, my sanctuary, the one place where the world's noise couldn't touch me. Until Karen. Karen, with her clipboard and her pinched smile, the HOA president who thought she could rewrite my deed with a wave of her manicured hand. She stood there, on my dock, telling me my land was community property now, handed over to strangers who'd never even heard Grandpa's laugh echo across the water. I felt the air leave my lungs, the kind of rage that burns slow and cold, like frost creeping over a window pane. This wasn't just about land. It was about memory, about roots, about a woman who thought she could steal both and call it policy. I stood on the porch that morning, coffee mug steaming in the October chill, watching her march across my lawn like she owned it. The lake sparkled behind her, a cruel mirror to her audacity. "Elliot," she said, voice sharp as a paper cut. "The HOA voted. Your lakefront access is causing issues. It's not fair to the community." Issues. The only issue was her. I caught her before, sniffing around my property line, muttering about aesthetic violations because my wildflowers didn't match her beige vision of the neighborhood. I'd ignored her then, thinking she was just a busybody with too much time. But this was war. The air smelled of damp leaves and betrayal as I followed her to the dock, my boots crunching on gravel. She gestured at a group of newcomer weekenders from the city, their kayaks bobbing like toys on my water. "They deserve access," she said, not even looking at me. "It's in the bylaws." Bylaws. I'd read every word of that HOA contract when I inherited the place. My lakefront was exempt, carved out decades ago. I told her as much, my voice low, steady, the kind you use before a storm breaks. She just smirked, her earrings glinting like tiny knives. "Take it up at the next meeting, Elliot. Good luck." Then she turned, her heels clicking back toward her McMansion, leaving me with the stranger's laughter ringing in my ears. I didn't sleep that night. The cabin creaked under the weight of my pacing, the floorboards groaning like they felt my fury. Outside, the lake whispered, its ripples catching moonlight, mocking me with its calm. I thought of Grandpa, his calloused hands teaching me to bait a hook, his stories of fighting for this land when developers tried to swallow it whole. He'd won then. I'd win now. But how? Karen had the HOA wrapped around her finger, a council of spineless neighbors who nodded at her every whim. I needed a plan, something sharp, something that'd hit her where it hurt her pride, her control, her precious community. Morning came, gray and heavy, the kind of dawn that feels like a bruise. I was out by the property line, staring at the surveyor's stakes Karen had planted, when Old Man Tucker pulled up in his rusted pickup. Tucker wasn't HOA. He lived just outside the gated community, a grizzled loner who'd seen every drama unfold over his 70 years. His dog, a mutt named Rusty, panted in the passenger seat, tongue lolling like he knew the gossip. "Heard Karen's at it again," Tucker said, spitting tobacco into the dirt. "She tried to find me once for my mailbox. Said it was unapproved. I told her where she could shove her approval." His laugh was a dry rasp, and it sparked something in me. Tucker wasn't just a neighbor, was a wild card, someone Karen couldn't control. I needed him. Over coffee in his cluttered kitchen, the smell of burnt toast lingering, Tucker told me about the old access road. It ran through my property, a narrow strip the HOA used to reach the lake's public dock. Grandpa had let them use it, a neighborly gesture, but he'd never signed it over. The HOA's own maps confirmed it. That road was mine. Karen's community access depended on my land. My pulse quickened, a grin tugging at my lips. I could feel the plan forming, sharp as a blade. "Tucker," I said, "you still got that fencing guy's number?" The next week was a blur of work and secrecy. I hired a crew to put up a chain-link fence, 8 feet tall, right along the access road's edge. The clang of metal posts echoed through the trees, each one a middle finger to Karen's smug face. I didn't stop there. I had signs made big. Bold ones: private property, no trespassing, violators will be charged. The crew worked fast, the buzz of their drills mixing with the lake's soft lapping. I caught a whiff of pine and rust, the scent of defiance. By Friday, the fence was up, cutting off the HOA's precious path. The lake was still accessible, but only through my gate. On my terms. Karen showed up at dawn, her SUV screeching to a stop. I was ready, leaning against a post, my breath fogging in the cold. Her face was a storm cloud, lips pursed so tight they nearly vanished. "Elliot, this is outrageous," she snapped, jabbing a finger at the fence. "You're blocking community access." I held up the deed, the paper crinkling in my hand. "My land. My rules. Karen. You want access. Pay for it." Her eyes widened, a flicker of panic beneath her fury. I named my price, $5,000 a month, wired directly to me, or the gate stayed locked. The HOA could afford it. They'd been fleecing us all for years with their fees. She laughed, a brittle, nervous sound, like glass about to shatter. "You'll regret this," she hissed, storming off. I didn't. The next HOA meeting was a circus. Neighbors packed the community center, their voices a chaotic hum, some angry, some just confused. Karen stood at the podium, her usual poise fraying as she tried to spin the narrative. "Elliot's holding our lake hostage," she declared, voice trembling with rehearsed outrage. I stood up, calm, my hands steady despite the adrenaline. I passed out copies of the deed, the access road map, the bylaws. "Karen's the one who stole my lakefront," I said, my voice carrying over the murmurs. "She gave it to strangers without my consent. I'm just taking back what's mine." The room split. Some cheered, others booed, but I saw the doubt in their eyes. Karen's grip was slipping. Then Tucker stood up, his gravelly voice cutting through the noise. "She tried to bully me out of my land too," he said, holding up a faded letter from the HOA, demanding he cede his driveway for community use. The crowd gasped. Tucker wasn't just a witness, was proof Karen's power grab wasn't new. Her face went white, her hands gripping the podium like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Days turned into weeks, and the gate stayed locked. The HOA tried to negotiate, offering $2,000, then $3,500. I held firm. Every morning, I'd walk the fence line, the metal cold under my fingers, the lake's breeze carrying the faint scent of algae and freedom. Neighbors started coming to me, quietly, sharing their own Karen stories, fines for untrimmed hedges, threats over non-compliant paint colors. She'd built an empire on fear, but empires fall when the foundation cracks. The climax came at the annual HOA election. Karen ran for re-election, her smile plastered on like cheap wallpaper. But the tide had turned. Tucker and I had rallied enough votes, fueled by whispered resentments and my fence's unyielding presence. When the results were announced, Karen's name wasn't called. She sat there, frozen, as a new president, a quiet retiree named Linda, who'd once baked me cookies when I moved into the stage. The room erupted in applause, a sound like thunder rolling across the lake. Karen slipped out the back, her heels clicking softer now. Defeated. I didn't take down the fence. The HOA pays me $5,000 a month now, wired promptly on the 1st. The lakefront is mine again. The dock where Grandpa taught me to fish untouched by strangers' kayaks. I sit there sometimes, at dusk, the water reflecting the last streaks of pink and gold. I hear his laugh in the wind, feel the weight of his hand on my shoulder. This wasn't just about land. It was about standing up, about fighting for what's yours when someone tries to take it with a smile and a lie. Karen thought she could rewrite my story. I wrote the ending instead.